radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How are you? Yeah, it's Fade to Black. Today is Thursday, August 6th, 2026. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. What a week here on the show. A week that I needed, by the way. Monday night, Emily Harrison was here, the Akashic Records. Tuesday night, Cody Blue Snyder and Tanya Dahl were with us, some of my closest friends, and the host for Acid for Squares. Last night, the one and only Tom Campbell was here, my big toe and his theory of everything, which leads us to tonight, Richard Dolan. Yeah, Richard Dolan's here. I've called the show Dolan's Thoughts because tonight I'm going to take the night off. He doesn't know it yet. I'm going to go, Richard, welcome. Show is yours. Go. Just go. Because tonight's my Friday. It's your Thursday. And I get to head into this 105-degree weekend here in Palmdale and, continue to get my head straight. Yeah. I have been following, before I bring Richard in, I've been following social media and the news and everything else like all of you have on, what's going on with, UFOs, UAPs, the latest document dump from the government, of course, the conversation that's going on about and with whistleblowers and the researchers in our community. And I got to tell you, it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time, and there's nobody better than Richard Dolan to come in and talk about all of this stuff. What's on his mind? What are his thoughts? And his links, Richard Dolan members, are below over on our website and, of course, throughout social media. Richard not only is one of my closest friends, but he happens to be one of the world's leading UFO researchers and authors. Everything that he does is great. I have spent the last week, once again, I don't even know how many times I've done this. I'm reading UFOs in a National Security State, Volume 1 for like the 10th time. I go through that, and I think that's Richard's first book. I think it's his best, by the way. And he's written a lot of really good stuff. But the way that he approached that book, I still slam the pages and always learn something new. And I've been doing that all week. Not because Richard's on the show, because I read that book all the time, which reminds me of one night a few years ago. I'm reading his book. I'm in bed. And I read something on this page. And it's like 11 o'clock at night, my time. He lives in New York. I got to call Richard. So I called him. He's like, Church, man, what's going on? He thought it was some emergency. I said, man, I love you, man. This book is so good. I'm hanging up now. It's really true. He's one of the best. The phenomena is real. The government secrecy is upon us. Let's talk about all of that tonight with the one and only Richard Dolan. Richard, what's going on, man?
Hi, Jimmy. It is a pleasure always to be on with you, and I'm really glad to see you tonight.
Yeah. I needed to see your face, my friend. That's a true story, though. So when I called you at 11, that must have been like 2 o'clock your time, and you picked up. You picked up the phone. Yeah, you picked up the phone.
I looked for a long time. Do I want to pick this up from Jimmy Church at 2 a.m.?
Oh, man. This is, we've got to keep the tradition going. What's the last song you listened to today?
You haven't asked me in a little while, but I always have to remind myself before I come on here with you because I never know. And I do know what that song was. I'm almost afraid to say it because it's going to date me. Because I always listen to the 1970s, and I listened to Al Stewart singing "Year of the Cat." It's one of my favorite songs. It's a beautiful
Last night, I'm watching a TV series. It's a new TV series that just came out, and it's called Lucky. It's on Apple. It's good. Anyway, they played "Year of the Cat" at the end. So I stopped last night, and instead of, when the credits start rolling, go to something else, I just hear the cat. So it's
one of those beautifully written songs.
Oh, man, it's so
Listening to the lyrics, the guy really could write. She comes out in the sun with a silver dress, running like a watercolor in the rain. Who writes that? That's good writing.
Man, Monet wrote that. Right?
Yeah. It's a great song. It's one of those songs that, by the way, I have to apologize for my voice. It's not the best, but hopefully will be good. It's a song that I don't know. I guess it could be written today, but I don't think so. I think it was a song from a certain era, and it is a beautiful song.
When somebody writes, and then actually that leads me to the last thing I listened to today. Also from the 70s, also is going to date me. I think it's from the 70s, early 80s.
We're about the same age.
I listened to a band cover Neil Young's Harvest Moon.
Good song.
Right? Good song. Now, what's similar about those two songs? Those two songs are deeply personal. They weren't written to be hits. They were written from the heart, right? And that's when somebody writes something personal about themselves and they let it all hang out. That's what connects with people.
Yeah, they were deeply artistic forms of expression. They were personal forms of expression, which I think, this is not just us being old. I think this is a very typical critique of modern, like a lot of contemporary popular music. It's very corporate, and you don't really get that feeling. There are always exceptions. There are good people out there doing creative work, but I think as far as like the popular culture goes, there was something very special about the decade of the 1970s. I really do think it's true. There was this a deep kind of personal. There was a lot of ambition and competition among artists. Corporations were a lot more willing to let artists just be artists than I think in the 21st century. So it was kind of like a perfect connection of a lot of different things going on that allowed for a special moment, I think, culturally.
Yeah, when Al Stewart wrote that, when that was a hit, it really struck home with me. And at that same time, there were a couple other songs that came out. One was Bob Seger, Night Moves. Like right at the same time, right? Great song. And
of course, when you think about it, it's like this grand recollection of a guy trying to get laid in the backseat of a car back in the 60s. It's like, okay, I get it. But like he turns it into this grand like opera, like for time and space. But still, it's a great song.
Yeah, written from a personal experience. If you write a song and you sit down and you're trying to write a song and your goal is to write a hit song, nobody's going to give a shit. Write from the heart. That's what people relate to. Don't try to approach it from a commercial angle. Some people do, and they're successful with it. But those aren't the ones that stand the test of time.
I think that's the dominant mode for a lot of, at least from what I understand, a lot of contemporary, like the music industry. It's very scientific. They because they know everyone's streaming. So they're like, okay, people listen to this part the most. That's the hook. They create, everything's like created and it's prepackaged. And that's why it all sounds the same.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of, there's a guy named Rick Beato, and he's
Rick's great. Rick's great.
He's awesome. And I like his channel. He talks about this a lot.
That's because he's our age.
Bingo.
He's our age.
Back in my day, it was a little different.
Let's talk about Peter Frampton's guitar solo on "Do You Feel Like We Do" in from Frampton Comes Alive, and he goes and he says that, and it's right in my wheelhouse. And his audience, you know what I mean? Rick talks about those things that motivated him to be a guitar player and a musician in the 70s.
He's fantastic. He's a great commentator.
He's great. I reached out to him when he was first starting to take off, and almost got him on the show. Almost did, and then his shit went crazy. I mean, he's he got big real quick. This is where I want to start tonight, and I want to talk for the audience. It's you and I, of course, talking, but I want to talk to the audience a little bit, and I want them to understand the drama that appears to be going down right now from all aspects, from Washington to the media, to social media and researchers and all of that. To us old farts that have been researching this for a long time, this is nothing new. It may seem like it's more extreme, but you and I lived through the 90s in the UFO community, which was insane, right? It was just, it was crazy.
During the 90s, I was the outsider looking in, so I was researching it. No one knew me, but I was following the field, and it was, lots of drama.
Full of it. And you...
For the entire decade.
Yeah, for the entire decade. And it was, things were so fresh. Like Art Bell was just taking off, and Coast to Coast was, starting to do its thing.
It was for a smaller community, though. Like all the drama and controversy was like, it hadn't really gone, there was no social media, of course. There was no super broad public involved. There was a dedicated group of people following it, and there was always controversy.
It never stopped. Yeah. I got to tell you, it was never boring.
No.
And when we talk about the government and the release of documents that's been going on for the last month or so, we also had in the 90s, we didn't have one, but we had two official government reports on Roswell that were released. And
that's right.
Yeah. So it's not like what's going on now we haven't experienced before. So I think that we're a little bit more used to it. That's veterans. I want to say veterans, but we are. But it's crazy right now. And I want to start. I want to start with. I almost want to start with MJ12, but that's because of what's happening right now and the comments about it. That it's real, it's been, so there's that. But before we go there,
MJ12, like that's come
up. No. There's comments out there. Well, we'll circle back to that. That apparently there's been some comments inside of Washington, D.C. that MJ12 is a real thing, and there is a real MJ12 working group. But before we go there, whistleblowers. What is your take, and who do you classify as a whistleblower? That's two questions in one, but there's a third. Do you believe that any of the whistleblowers today, we'll get to NDAs in a second, actually know something firsthand? So what's your take on this whistleblower aspect of everything?
All right, well. So whistleblower is one of these things where some people will say that person's not a whistleblower because they got permission from their agency through the DOPSR process to say what they did. So they got permission, so they're not a whistleblower. I don't really agree with that. I think that there are a number of people who have come forward over the last decade that I would call genuine whistleblowers, whether or not they've, to whatever extent they've cooperated with a government agency or not. David Grush fits that bill to me. Matthew Brown fits that bill. Matthew Brown just came up. He was talking about the Pursue document release memorandum, which we could talk about. It's interesting. I would say Luis Elizondo. I would call him one, and I know that might be controversial to some, but I would qualify him as one of those. Probably Jake Barber. A lot of the recent people who've come out. I think it's fair to say that they are, to one extent or another, they're coming forward as people with various aspects of connection to, let's call it the inside. They know something, and they are coming out and they're telling the public about it. I mean, you can split hairs on your definition if you like, but I'd prefer not to. I just think if they're an insider, they're coming forward, it's somewhat controversial, they're making a statement, I'm going to say they're a whistleblower. I don't want to split hairs too much on this.
Pull your microphone closer to you.
Oh, I'm a little far away.
Yeah.
Better?
Only because you're whispering. You've turned this into an NPR episode. So, Richard,
yes, let's
into your
talk about
notebook.
the
Yes.
what's that Alec Baldwin episode with SNL? They're doing the peach Shveddy balls. Remember that? I made you laugh.
Try my sweaty balls.
My
Okay,
voice is genuinely, it feels a little weak today.
You remember, you and I have an Alec Baldwin story.
We do?
Wait, we do. Let me remind you. Hold on. Everybody, Richard and I have an Alec Baldwin story. This is what happened.
I'm a little bit afraid of whatever you might say.
I know. This is crazy. So we just got off the set. We were filming for our movie, The Observers, and we were staying in Brentwood at this nice hotel. And so we wrap, and the cars drop us off, and I think we had dinner. And we were standing at the bottom of the staircase in the lobby, and it's Linda, you, Whitley, and myself.
Yeah.
It's the four of us. And we're standing at the bottom of the stairs talking about anal probing and alien abductions.
Almighty.
And I turn around and we're doing this, having this conversation. And I turn around, and standing behind us is Alec Baldwin at the reception desk.
No, he was not there.
You don't remember this? Okay, hold on. So I turn around, and Alec is leaning past this pole, listening to us. And he had a Hawaiian shirt on and short pants and a beard, a light beard. And I turned back around, and I said, I think that's Alec Baldwin. Okay, and so we all wrap, and we say goodnight. The three of you go upstairs. I go outside to smoke a cigarette, and I walk behind Baldwin, and I go, what's up? And he goes, hey. And I kept walking. I go outside, and I called you. I go, Richard, it's Alec Baldwin. He's standing at the desk. Come down. And you go,
how do I not remember this? I would have remembered.
You said to me, Church, let's get him in the movie. And I said, come down. Let's go talk to him. And so I got you out of your room, and you came down, and he was gone. And you came outside, and that was, you don't remember that.
All right, look, you either need new medications or I do. One of us has got a problem here.
It was your idea.
And I don't think it's me.
It was your idea. Let's get him in the movie. But
well, if there were Alec Baldwin, I probably would have said that, but I do not remember this. Now, in fairness,
you know what? You had a really bad cold, though.
All right, look, I'm going to say this. I sometimes forget things. I have a good historical memory, and it's shit for everything else. So there you go.
You had a low grade.
I'm just gonna. I don't think this happened, but I'm gonna leave it open, and I'm gonna say maybe I'm the one who needs the meds. Even though I don't believe that.
I'm gonna let this go.
I'm just gonna give that one to you.
It was the whole thing was just wild. What he was listening to with Linda and Whitley.
Seriously, Alec Baldwin, come on.
Yeah, it was wild.
All right, look, is it wrong? I'm doing something else here. This is new. It's a hot summer night. I had a beer before we started. I have another one right here. Do you care if I drink a beer on your video camera?
No, man. You do what you want.
Cause you a?
I'll go get some alien vodka.
Do you want to ask me what this
is? What kind of beer?
It's a Pabst Blue Ribbon.
PBR.
PBR.
Is that your beer?
That and Guinness, I go back and forth.
You know, that's kind of a Rochester beer.
No, Rochester beer would be Jenny Cream Ale, babe. Jenny Cream Ale. We got Genesee Brewery here.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the PBR. I'm not going to lie. It's a simple man's beer.
Yeah, it is. I'm a chocolate stout guy. It's
Guinness Draft is my all-time favorite.
That's my favorite.
Nothing beats that, but that's a little pricey.
So
I'll go for the
pricey.
PBR every now and then. So the reason I'm saying this, because partly I may have a sip every now and then, and it's kind of unavoidable to hide that, but it might loosen me. You never know what you'll get out of me.
Yeah, I know. You know what? Tell Tracy to bring you a chaser. We'll just keep this going. NDAs when it comes to whistleblowers is now back in the conversation again.
Yes, it's
and
right.
I'm not a big fan of the NDA excuse. I'm not. I think that's
it's a bit of a legal barrier, wouldn't you say? I mean, legal and criminal
I don't
barrier.
think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well,
You want to ask me why?
Tend to disagree with you.
You want to ask me why?
I would like to ask you why. Why don't you tell us?
There is not an NDA from the United States government that has ever been issued that says you cannot talk about UFOs, ETs, or crash retrievals in that NDA. Doesn't exist. Because that NDA would be leaked, it would be public knowledge, and we could read it, and then the government is now saying that they have these crafts. So
theory.
There's nothing that is stopping any of these whistleblowers from talking about UFOs. It's not in the NDA. It's not.
Well, there's a reason they don't talk. There's a reason they don't break their NDAs. So there's got to be something they're afraid of. You know, Dan Sherman, who did a great interview on Jesse Michael earlier in the year, in his book Above Black, he kind of talked a little bit about this system. He said he kind of agreed with you. He said, relating to the UFO program I was involved in, I'm saying UFO loosely here, but relating to that, he said, that wasn't really the problem. The problem was the program it was nested within, and that had all of the legal barriers. And so his whole position was he had to be extremely careful how he discussed what he did and so forth. So that would speak to your point.
Yeah. And here's my other point. The government, period, will not arrest, prosecute, or do anything to anybody that mentions UFOs or retrievals, because then it goes to court. Then you have discovery, and that it will never happen. So I just don't. I now
there's all kinds of legal
family.
protection. Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not very persuaded by your argument. There have to be other reasons why people have not stepped forward. And the NDA is a significant barrier there. I've got to think. You can't tell us that you know for a fact that there's no NDA that would ever be connected to a UFO program, because otherwise it would have leaked out. Like, I don't really think that's great logic.
I'm saying that would be the most famous document. That'd be more famous than the Bible if that was the case. And we would see it and we would know it. And if a whistleblower really had an NDA that said that, he would say, here's the paper, and I
in the
can't.
comments below think about this. Who's right?
Yeah.
I bet more people will agree with you.
Now here is,
but that doesn't mean the majority is always right.
Ever. But here's the thing. You would be, if you're that person, man or woman, that did disclose and broke the NDA, you would be protected by planet Earth. Everybody, you would be the most visible. Nothing could happen to you. Nothing. The whole world would come to your defense. And
Like Julian Assange?
Bigger.
He rotted away in prison for years.
Bigger. It's bigger than Assange. This is bigger than anything. Yeah. That's
a
my
lot of
take.
things have leaked out over the years, and you get the arguments over authenticity. You mentioned MJ12 earlier. I'm still not convinced that that's a fake. I mean, I know people out there love to say it's fraudulent, it's fake. I don't. I'm not prepared to say that I think it's fake. I think there's too much about it that makes me think, something there. There could be some shenanigans about it that I'm not aware of. It could be doctored, but I think fundamentally a document like that, I believe fundamentally that MJ12 is true. Whether those documents are exactly true or not, I don't know. But my point is simply something true can leak out, and you can have all kinds of, people on the inside saying it's fake. Think about when the Davis Wilson note came out back in 2019. That was 7 years ago, and for about almost a year, I was the only person.
No,
it was
the two of us. The two of us. Yeah.
Right.
But
people were flinging stuff at me and I guess you for a long time.
Yeah.
And who are these people? They dropped in and out. I don't even want to mention their names because I don't want to give them that much oxygen. But there are people who came in, and they sure seemed like paid disinfo people. And they tried to just throw as much dirt on those documents as possible, and then they disappeared after it became clear that those documents were that memo, the document was true. So there's always like an effort to throw all kinds of cold water on legitimate documents, I think. And an NDA in this community leaks out. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I'm not as convinced as you are that it's a slam dunk, that if someone comes out as a whistleblower, the world would get behind them. And even if the world did, you really have to ask yourself, like, how much would it actually matter? So we have a very big community here now in this field of ours, much bigger than it was 15 years ago. And that's kind of amazing. But then we have to ask ourselves, how much genuine power does this community actually have? There, people say, well, the mainstream's useless, the legacy media is all propaganda, which all of it's, that's right, it is. It's all propaganda, and it is useless from an informational point of view. But it's still effective propaganda. It's still basically like, the Soviet system was. No one believed in that one either, but they still had to follow the orders and kind of go along with the game. And that's kind of our world here. So, yeah, what you say, people would support such a person who came out, broke their NDA, but would it really make a difference? It's a serious question.
Okay. Why hasn't Bob Lazar been arrested?
Yeah, it's a good. Well, Lazar was subject to a lot of attacks.
He was
in the early years, a lot of smear campaigns in the early 90s. But
not taken to court over UFO revelations that went public.
Yeah.
He revealed Area 51 to the world when it was still top secret. And
what happened with Lazar? Here's what happened. He wasn't prosecuted for UFO.
No, prostitution.
But he was smeared, and he was ignored in the mainstream, other than by George Knapp, which back in the early 90s, you're basically talking local coverage. And so Bob just kind of dropped out after a few years.
But didn't get arrested.
The way they got him was to smear him and make his life a living hell.
I don't think his life was a living hell.
In the early 90s,
he had government contracts
with
it. He had his nuclear company, American Nuclear.
All that came later.
Had government contracts, lived a good life, and he dropped out for sure, dropped out of the public eye, but now he's out making films
he's genuinely brilliant. And so a guy like that, so they didn't go after him legally, they went after him reputationally, and they had a lot of success with that. Years go by, he doesn't stop being brilliant. He creates his own company, and his company has value to the United States government. And so, yeah, they contract with him. You can't keep a guy like him down. He has too much brain power. So I think that's his story. But he didn't, United Nuclear. That was not. I don't think that was in the early '90s. That was a bit later.
Yeah, that was a bit later. But what I'm saying is, here's a whistleblower revealing Area 51 and reverse engineering craft. Mm-hmm. And
didn't he say people shot at his car?
Yeah,
in the early '90s.
Yeah, in Las Vegas. So, but the government rewards somebody that disclosed all of this stuff with government contracts.
Well, after enough time.
Yeah, I guess so.
They come back and say, "'Twas all in good fun."
Yeah, I guess so. But I'm with the community here when we need to scratch our heads with all of this and ask, at what point do we tell the whistleblowers and anybody that wants to bring another whistleblower forward that, okay, we've had a lot of jaws flapping, we hear you, but it's time to get to the good stuff. It's time to get
it sounds like
real.
You're asking people to break their NDAs. I mean, that's easy for you to say. You're not bound by them. You're talking about someone who's signed whatever document they've signed. Who knows what penalties they will incur if they break those NDAs? You do not know, and I don't. But I have to think those are significant. And they've got families, they've got kids, they've got their partners. I don't know all of the repercussions that these people would deal with, but I've got to think they're concerned.
Right. Have you seen a whistleblower produce an NDA?
Are they allowed to?
Why not? You sign it. You don't have a copy of the NDA? So it's
what if in the NDA the language says this NDA must not be shown in public? I mean, I don't know.
Who gives a shit?
Okay, that sounds a little flippant to me. It sounds a little flippant.
No, not at all. If I'm a whistleblower and I'm hiding behind an NDA and I've got my attorney sitting next to me and he says, look, he can't answer this because of this sheet of paper. All right? That's where we are at. Here is the NDA. I haven't seen it come to that.
Have you? All right. So I don't know if you have spoken to anyone who has signed an NDA. I'm assuming you have. Have you asked them to do what you're suggesting here?
At one of the...
Have you asked Elizondo? He signed NDAs.
I have. Now, let's talk about Elizondo.
Yeah.
At the congressional hearing, Moskowitz says to Elizondo, hey, I'm an attorney. You claim that you've signed an NDA and you can't talk to me right now. Where is the NDA? Okay. And what did Elizondo say? He goes, it's locked up somewhere. And
is
Moskowitz,
that exactly how he said it?
Yeah, exactly. And Moskowitz goes, man, I'm an attorney. I know how this goes. Where is this NDA? Right. And that was the end of it. So that it's the same question that I'm asking. If that's the case, right. we need those receipts and we need the legitimacy to prop up and support these whistleblowers.
This is not the same thing as saying that the NDA is legally allowed to be publicized. I mean, the fact that Moskowitz is talking about it, that's not the same thing as what you're saying, which is, well, he should just be allowed to show the NDA. That does not follow.
What I am suggesting here is my attitude was the same as Moskowitz's. The difference is I'm a radio host. Moskowitz is an elected official that's an attorney. And he's asking, where is this NDA? All right?
Right, implying that it should be viewable at least by him.
I'm just saying, and so we need to support these whistleblowers, and
Yes, totally, absolutely,
so that I think that's one of the
1,000%.
that's one of the key things where we need to separate who is a legit whistleblower, who really signed an NDA, who is it that we need to and produce an NDA, show it to us, and then we now know that this is the case. Too many have said I've signed an NDA without producing the NDA, and we take them at their word.
No one's produced the NDA. I mean, that just makes me think. I'm not aware. I mean, maybe I don't get around much, but I'm not aware of anyone producing an NDA and just showing it in public.
Right.
Are you?
So do that.
If you're not aware, then maybe there's a reason.
When a tree falls in the woods, right? Do these NDAs exist? I'm asking the
NDAs
relevant
exist. No one disputes the existence of NDAs.
No, we don't. But are all of the whistleblowers signing NDAs?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I do not know. Now you're raising, I mean, this is a really important thing, and maybe we want to just discuss the recent Pursue memorandum. I don't know if you're... Mm-hmm. I did a video on it. I had a completely crappy microphone that day, so it just sounds like garbage. Sorry, everyone, if you saw that video. It won't be that way in the future. But, yeah, so this was on July 31st, just like a week ago as we're talking now. And this is out of the White House. So it's Pursue. It's, what is it, Presidential Unsealing and something for UAP Encounters Reporting System, I think. So this is from the Director of National Intelligence. And it was kind of a weird thing. It's a very short, I don't have the website in front of me, but it's easy to find, and it takes like 30 seconds to read it. It's very short. They call it a preliminary memorandum. So it's not a full thing. Preliminary guidance to implement Trump's order concerning UAP NDAs. This is specifically about NDAs relating to UAP. And it says, essentially, if you're a government employee, especially if you're in one of the 18 intelligence agencies that we have, 18, or a contractor, that counts, you may provide UAP information through an authorized government representative that will be appointed by your intelligence agency. They're mandated to do this. And you can talk about this without violating your NDA. So you can talk about UAP-related things to them, and you will not be in violation of your UAP. Now, it's a super short, and then they say, well, we'll have more specific reporting guidelines forthcoming soon. And that's basically it. And so I listened to Matthew Brown, who I have a lot of regard for him. I have a very high respect for him. And he didn't say this was definitely a trap, but as I listened to him, he said this could easily become a trap. Like, he could easily see it be a trap. And I agree with that. Like, you could easily see this as a situation where
who's going to talk? Right.
Yeah. Like, what do people know in all of these? Because this information's probably, a lot of it is scattered and compartmentalized in different agencies. So let's say you're the president. Could be Donald Trump, could be Bill Clinton 30 years ago. Because we know Bill Clinton was interested in this, and he failed, apparently, to get the information he wanted on this. So let's say you're in the White House and you know there's information there and over there and over here and over here. So here's what we'll do. We're going to make it easier for these people to report. We get the information, we can collate it, we can organize it, and we don't have to really share it with the public. It doesn't have to go, we can just bury it. And that's really what I think Matthew Brown was implying, and I could easily see that being true. The opposite end of the spectrum, I heard Avi Loeb talk about this, and he's like, no, this is a real breakthrough. And there's, like, if you look at it in a certain perspective, you could kind of see where he's coming from in this sense that it was very, very difficult for people to come forward because of their NDAs. This could be a breakthrough. I think he had maximum optimism level when he gave his interpretation. I think my take is that I don't want to say it's a trap yet. I suspect that could be the case. I certainly don't want to say it's a breakthrough, but I would like to wait for the follow-up guidelines and just say, and they're supposed to come out in a couple of weeks or whatever. So I just don't like jumping to a conclusion.
It came out the first week of May, and
no, didn't it? It came out
May 8th, 2026.
The Pursue Memorandum?
Yep.
Well, I have July
presidential
31st
unsealing and reporting system for UAP encounters. The official U.S. government initiative launched on May 8th, 2026. It provides public access to declassified files, photos, videos, and audio recordings.
Maybe it was publicized on July 31st.
I could go further into this, but the part of this that, I mean, for me, that I find so fascinating is that we have had government insiders for a long time. I mean, a long time, for decades. This isn't something that just started in 2026 or 2017. It's been going on for a long time. And if you think about situations like, Robert Salas, comes to mind, very quickly. And that was 1967. Okay. So
he went public in the 90s.
Yeah, he went public in the 90s, over 30 years ago.
That's right.
So I think it's important. Now, he was, somebody that was working in missile silos with ICBM missiles pointed at the Soviet Union. And I would argue that was probably the most classified job that you could have on planet Earth at that time. Right? That's a pretty hefty thing. Yeah. So he was his security oath and his security clearances and everything else. When did they expire? Was there an NDA or something that I don't know. And I don't know
that he signed an NDA.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But he was under some kind of classified restrictions, I believe.
He would have to have been. But it didn't stop him.
Sometimes those expire after 20 years or after 30 years. It depends.
Yeah.
I don't know what his was specifically. I mean, probably 30 years, because his event occurred in 1967, and I think it was in the later 90s. No. I think maybe 94, 95.
When did Hastings
possibly.
When did Hastings write his book?
Oh, UFOs and Nukes. That's 2007, 2008, something around there.
Right. Seems like it was a little earlier, but yeah. So Hastings' book. But what I'm saying is Hastings' book is what really elevated Robert's story, and it got pretty deep into all of that.
I would disagree. I would say it was Stephen Greer's press conference of 2001.
Oh, okay.
Where Salas was very much a part of. He was a big part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I mean, people can say what they want about Greer, but he really deserves the credit for publicizing Salas, because in Greer's book Disclosure, which was 2000. He has Salas's story in great detail there from an interview he did. So I think that's where it really came out.
The next part of this conversation before we head to the break is in reference back to the Pursue document, that we've had a tremendous amount of documents now released every 2 weeks from the government. That is pretty nuts. Has it been as golden for you? I mean, there's nuggets in there that I think are pure gold.
Yeah.
What's your take on the timing of it?
Two things I would say about it. So from a disclosure point of view, like people, the thing is, we're in a time where, people are just fed up, right? So they're sick and tired of the government. They're sick and tired of the media, major media. They're tired of Congress. They don't believe anything. And they know they've been lied to for generations. And so when the government puts out these documents, which are definitely not disclosure, they get pissed off. But from a research point of view, I will just say the documents are quite fascinating and they're valuable. So the last couple of tranches, particularly, I think have been like I've gone through them all, and I will just say there are some very excellent historical documents in there. Everyone wants to look at the videos. It's like, do people want to read anymore? I don't really know if people read, but the PDF documents are worth going through, particularly some of the earlier historical ones, because I'll just tell you right now, when I was researching my first book, which you say is my best book, Volume 1 of UFOs in the National Security State, I would have loved to have had access to many of these documents that had been released. And I didn't have them. I wasn't aware of many of them. And they make the case spectacularly that the UFO phenomenon was very, very profoundly important to U.S. national security in the 1940s and 50s and 60s, at the same time that the government was denying it to the public and everything. So there's a lot of like great historical info in there. So that's one thing that, whatever else you say against the tranches, they provide exceptionally interesting and valuable historical documentation. On top of that, I'll just add, in the last, the fourth one, going off of memory here, but there was an FBI investigation of orbs out in the West and orbs in the Eastern U.S. Both of those were actually really interesting because there was an FBI artist who recreated both in JPEG and in video form the nature of these orbs out in the West, and
it's pretty crazy to see, isn't it?
They took it very seriously. And the case in itself was really, really good.
It's a fascinating case, and the videos and the illustrations that they released were part of a presentation.
Yeah, right. So in an internal presentation that they did. So clearly, the U.S. government is telling the public, at least this person in this office of the FBI is like, damn, this is interesting, and this seems real to me. There's no way they would have done it otherwise. They obviously believe that this was anomalous, or at least important enough to do a recreation of. So I guess my point is that there's some interesting things in there, and sometimes we need to read between the lines. And no, there's no one passed what I call the hanger test. Like, in other words, give a 4-star general his iPhone and have him just go through a hangar and record the craft and some bodies. That was not done. So that there's no explicit confirmation or disclosure. But this is not really what this is all about. I think what we're seeing in these tranches and what we're seeing with the Pursue Memorandum, same thing. We're seeing the result of a kind of ongoing battle within the national security community over this subject. And it's kind of like, I likened it recently to, Lewis Carroll, who wrote Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. Through the Looking Glass, he talked about the Red Queen who says to Alice, you just got to keep running faster and faster to stay in the same place. And that's a great analogy for a lot of our world. It's like the arms race. Like, you do something, your opponent does something else now to counter your move. Now you have to do something else. Now they have to do something else. Now you have to do something else. And that's disclosure. So like there's this pressure that the public has been able to exert for the last 10, 15 years, really since internet. And it kind of broke open a little bit more in 2017. And so what are we seeing? We're seeing reactions, I believe, from within that community to counter, to absorb, to bury when possible. But like these tranches, and this memorandum, that's the bureaucracy responding, and they're responding to this opening that the public is making by trying to contain it as best they can. And I think that's what we're seeing. So the tranches are a response, but it's a response by them in an attempt to maintain as much control over the process as they can. I think that's what we're seeing.
Can you imagine? All right, it's so romantic to look back in time and go, well, if I knew this back then, things would be different. But for you, with UFOs in the National Security State Volume 1, You've got your prologue. And I could have this backwards, but anyway, you've got pre 1947, and then you
Yeah.
talk about 1947, and that's where the book kicks off. You do all the
Yeah.
historical airship stuff and things. But anyway, you specifically talk about the green fireballs at Los Alamos and the research that was going into it. But when you wrote the book, you only had a couple of things that you could reference to. And they turn around. Right. Yeah. And they turn around, and what did they do? They release 300 sightings in 1 year, 300 military reports of craft, of sizes, of directions, and you didn't have any of that.
Well, this is why I think my first volume is actually not my very best book. I do love that book. Like, I love all of my children. Those books are my children, and I love them all. But that first book, I'm proud of that book, and I think it accomplished what I set out to do, and I'm glad I wrote it. If I were to have written that book a decade later, I think it would have been a stronger book. I would have had access to better sources and materials, and I would have made that. And the green fireball section is a really good case in point, because that is an extremely important element in the early history of this phenomenon. What people need to understand is, you're looking at New Mexico. This is Los Alamos. This is where the atomic bomb was developed, first tested, and in the immediate aftermath of that detonation, 1948, 49, and 50 particularly, that whole area was overrun by objects that defied explanation. And to
only
the extent
in that one spot on planet Earth.
Right.
That's crazy, isn't it?
And
this
it went
phenomenon
for
wasn't
years.
happening like that anywhere else. Why Los Alamos?
Well, there were other areas that we could call hotspots. Oak Ridge in Tennessee was another one. Hanford up in the state of Washington, where they made plutonium, was another one. But
on the
no,
river.
you're right.
That was
Los
on the
Alamos.
river, right?
Yeah.
Hanford, that was on the river.
Correct. Some very interesting sightings.
Oh, we lost your audio. Richard.
What they call the green fireballs. You got to take a break?
No. We lost your audio. Okay, so back to Hanford and start
good.
from there.
All
No,
right.
10 seconds, rewind.
Yeah, sorry. Well, all I'm saying is that there were a few areas in post-World War II America. A lot of them were nuclear connected, like Oak Ridge, like Hanford, and definitely like Los Alamos, where in the late 40s, there were tremendous numbers, and I mean tremendous numbers, of sightings of unknown objects, like flying saucers, as people were calling them. And in Los Alamos, they were calling them the green fireballs. But these were not natural phenomena. They were not fireballs. The world's leading meteorologist at the time was named Lincoln La Paz, and he was right there, and he did a detailed analysis of this. This whole thing went on for several years, and it got the attention of like the most prominent, let's call them power scientists in the country. People connected with Intel, people with, wazoos of degrees, and they were, Edward Teller was one of the people there.
Yes,
and
he
they
was.
were all like studying this, and they're arguing about it. And by the way, this was listed in the most recent tranche, and it was fascinating. But the point is that this was a very serious thing, and I covered it. Yes, I covered it. Yes, I said it was important, but there was so much more I could have said. And
Yeah,
it was
La
an
Paz,
extremely-
La Paz, in one of the documents in the dump, and the green fireball stuff, I read all of it. I was just like, man, I've been waiting for this for such a long time to get to this info. And La Paz, so they had a bunch of high-level meetings where they got everybody together, right? And so you had the Air Force, you had the military, you had the FBI that was there, you had the scientists that were there, you had Lincoln La Paz that was there, and so forth. And Edward Teller was at a bunch of those meetings. The summary of the meeting, the last line was, "We don't know what's going on, but it ain't natural."
Right.
Right?
And in fact, in the last tranche that came out that had all of this, Teller was really interesting because he came in Edward Teller was like, what did he developed the fuse for the atomic bomb? Like Edward Teller, and he was the model for Dr. Strangelove in the great movie of the 1960s, the crazed scientist who wanted to blow up the world. But Teller, and of course Teller was the guy who got Bob Lazar
Yes.
into EG&G. Anyway, so here he is in 1948, 49, and he goes into this meeting and he's like, he thinks he's king of the world. And he's like, well, this probably is some kind of natural phenomenon. And he listens to La Paz, who's the real expert on that. And Teller has to admit in these notes, like you can read the transcript. He has to admit, oh, guess that's not the truth. That's not the case. It was really quite fascinating. Quite fascinating.
To see, again, to stress with everybody, they have they compiled everything into columns years before Excel or whatever.
Yes, that's right.
But they had it all in columns, and it's numbered, case number 1. And you flip through all those pages, and you get to the bottom, it's 297 cases in 12
old-fashioned
months.
Typewriter.
Yeah. Yep. Witnesses, the amount of witnesses, the color, the shape.
They put a lot of work into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't think that had ever been released before. I've never seen that.
No, me neither.
So this is the tranche. Like, people love to just bitch and moan. I'm sorry, but like, this is nothing. This is not disclosure. Well, okay, it's not disclosure, but it's pretty damn interesting. Like, open your eyes, read the damn PDF. It's like there's some interesting things in there.
Now, what do you, just real quick, I just want your personal insight on this. One of the things that social media has created is absolute clickbait on any subject. Do you salt your steaks before you cook them, right? There's some flashy graphic with this thing, and it's like clickbait. And it's on every subject, everywhere, about everything. And
it's awful. It's really awful.
And we have it with UFOs. And
yes, it's terrible.
I saw this thing, Don Schmidt. We all love Don. And he goes, man, and I see, he goes, there was no nurse named blah, blah, blah. There was no this, blah, 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 blah. And he said, this is clickbait. And then you go and you see it. Nurse reveals she had conversation with ET. And I'm like,
so much bullshit, man.
Yes, man.
Don's the real fist shaker at the clouds these days. He's like,
yes, he is. He is.
But I really like and respect Don. So hope he knows I said that with love. But what you're saying is totally true, and it's endemic to our field. And the thing is, we're approaching this 21st century tech with basically ancestral minds. I mean, you think about how we existed for hundreds of thousands, let's say millions of years, small groups. And in a small group, like, you have to know, like, who I can trust, who is in our group, who's out of our group, who's going to betray us, who's likely to betray us, who's a cheater, so it's like we developed an exceptionally acute social intelligence. And that was extremely valuable. It remains extremely valuable. The problem is when we try to apply that intelligence, I mean, we're in a world now of 8+ billion people with digital technology, algorithms, corporations, laws all over the place, all of these massive institutions that run our world. And we just somehow think that there are still heroes and villains. And if only this one person would do this one thing, then that would fix our world. And the world just doesn't work like that. I mean, I gotta tell people, like, that is not how it is. We live in a world of very, very complex interlocking systems that are really complex. I was going to drop a bomb there. I'm not going to do that. Very, very, and I'm not saying it's impossible to get things done, but I honestly have come to believe that we really overestimate our own ability to just like say, oh yeah, if only this one person were to make this decision, then that's going to fix everything. And I just don't think it's that simple. There's a lot of complexity in this world of ours, and we're using essentially an ancestral mind because that's really how we tend to operate. And So I don't want to go too much off on this because it's going to make, everyone's going to like hate what I have to say. But
No, but
I think it's,
people,
I think there's,
people need to hear this now. I'll say it. I'll say this out front. Nothing pisses me off more because I defend this community. I will take a bullet for this community. And when I see something in a feed, in a scroll, a government releases new videos and they'll have a frame of the video clip that was released with the frigging CGI flying
I wasn't
saucer
even speaking
in
to
it.
your point. So I went off.
Yeah.
a little bit there.
And I see that and I'm just like, is what it's come to? You're blatantly
but social media makes it so that we're prone to emotion, anger, manipulation. Like really, social media is perfectly designed. Here's what it's not designed for. It is not designed, like let's say there's one of a million controversies that come to our field all the time, many of which are amplified, all of which are amplified by social media because everyone's trying to get their clicks. But let's say you want to release a comment, but your comment is, this is a very complex issue. I think I need a few hours. No, I need a few days. No, I need maybe a week or more to really think this through and decide what the pros and cons are. Well, the system doesn't make it easy for you to do that because there's always like 20 more people who just will react emotionally immediately. And it's like, what side are you on? That's the ancestral mind. Are you in the group or out of the group? And so social media does not make it easy for people who really want to take their time and think through these issues because they are complicated issues. Like it's great to find your villain. Everyone likes to do that. But that's not really getting you closer to truth. I'm sorry to say that. Like things are complicated. Sometimes people who do things that you don't like still might tell the truth. Sometimes people who are sincere and very good can be wrong. Like all of that is possible. Mm-hmm. And so every single event that comes up in our community as a controversy needs on its own merits to be investigated carefully. And typically we don't do that. People really will look at someone and this is what I call the postmodern disease. They will judge what someone says, not on the basis of what they actually say. God forbid you actually listen. No, you judge it based on their background. This guy worked in Intel, never believe him. This is the government, never believe them. He's an outsider, I'm more inclined to believe him. Let's listen to what people actually say. Because if you're not listening, then you're not really communicating. The whole point of communication is to listen to the information and you make your judgment.
It was easier back in the day. Let's be old curmudgeons for a second. It was easier back in the day when you're in the checkout line at Kmart or the supermarket and the National Enquirer is there and Elvis just had an alien baby from having sex with some female Martian, right? And you see it on the cover of the Enquirer and you dismiss it. Maybe you buy it, but you go through the checkout line and you don't give it a second thought. Today, that very same stuff is in social media and people don't dismiss it. They don't. It's point. Weird, man. You go through and you read the comments. Man, I can't believe this is incredible. Like, what?
Well, let me just say, I want to follow up on one thing I just said.
Did anybody ever come to you with the National Enquirer and go, Richard, this needs to be in your next book? Elvis had
I've had let me get to that. I just will say this first. I do believe the context and someone's background and all of those things are important. Like they have to be taken into context. I'm just saying that should not be the sum total of the investigation.
Right.
Like, all right, so the primary part of any investigation really ought to be an analysis of what actually is being claimed. I realize not everyone's got the time or the inclination to do that, and then they listen to people like you or me or someone else, and they want to know what we think. I get it, but there's just a lot of willingness for people just to come out with these blanket statements, or like some people say, I don't trust anyone. Everyone's a grifter. Well, I got news for the people who say that. You're really no better than someone who says, I believe everything this person says, because you're still denying yourself the opportunity actually to think when you say things like that. Now, what you're asking, did anyone ever come to me with some crazy story? Hell yes. I remember years ago, this is when I still did Facebook. I do have a Facebook page. I just don't run it. Thank God. I do not look at
I don't run mine
social...
either, man. I don't.
Oh, no.
I don't.
You can't, man. You would.
No.
But anyway, someone wrote to me back then, and it was an image of a giant with one eye, like a cyclops. And like you see all these people standing around, and they're like excavating this skeleton, like a 20-foot or 15-foot skeleton of a cyclops, supposedly. And the person's like, well, have you looked at this, Mr. Dolan? And I'm like, so it took me, even then, I knew what Google image reverse image search was. This is like around 20, whatever, I don't know, 2013, 2012. So I did a reverse image search, and I found out that was the winner of an Adobe Photoshop competition. Like some artist created this. He wasn't even trying to scam the community. He was just like trying to have some fun. It got out. And so I very patiently wrote back on this little Facebook thread that I was included on. And I said, I researched this, and that was apparently a prize winner. And you know what the guy said in reply? I've never forgotten this. He was like, well, I respect the fact that it came from you, so I'll accept that. And I wrote back, I'm like, don't accept it from me. Like, look at the process I went through to do this. You could have done this yourself.
You could have done it yourself, man. I went through nearly the same situation. So 2013, 2014, I get an email, and I end up having a conversation on the phone with this person who tells me this. Dude, my best friend is a chef in upstate New York, Syracuse. Michelin, chef. And I said, okay. And what happened? He was on his way home, and he sees some objects in the sky, and he took these 3 pictures with his cell phone. And so he sends them to me. It's 3 triangles up in the sky, 2 triangles, 3 triangles. Pretty cool picture. And I go, can I talk to this guy? All right, well, let me. So I get the full story from him. I think I even published it on my website back when websites were relevant. And so, and I had it ready to go. I don't think it was published. Maybe it was. And then I went back and I sent it to Greenwald. I sent the images to John Greenwald. I said, this is the story. Check this out. Have you seen this before? And I come back and I'm scratching my head, and I do the Google image reverse.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
So I click on that. It was from a newspaper from witnesses in a Walmart parking lot in Georgia. I'm looking at the original, and it was like 4 years before. This guy's telling me his chef buddy in New York took the pictures.
Onto a 4-year-old photo from Georgia.
Yeah.
Trying to pass it off to you.
And it happened that week. And he had this whole elaborate story that I almost ran with. And I gave it to Greenwald. I said, man, here's this story. I'm going to publish it. You can publish it. It's here. Here are the images. I was pretty excited about it. It was,
This is part of the Red Queen to Alice. In other words, look, we keep every year, every moment, like things get a little bit better. So back then in 2012, someone was still able to kind of hope to pass off a fake digital image to you because, hey, who knew?
Same thing to
you
you.
would find
Same
out.
thing to you. Yeah.
But now we're, investigators or researchers get a little more on the ball, and we realize, and now people on the other side, they'll try better methods to get over on the public. Like it's just a constant arms race. It's never going to stop.
I know. Let me tell you what happened last week, and then we'll take a break. So last week, maybe about 10 days ago, after the show, I go out in my front yard. Richard, this just happened. It was crazy. I go out my front yard. I'm standing in my driveway, fire up a cigarette, right? And something just made me look like in the 11 o'clock position right above me, like off at an angle. So I do. I look, and there's a star. Underneath the star, very close, this frigging deep navy blue object, low, glowing, and it had a halo around it. It was pretty low. And it's hauling, but it goes underneath the star. And I looked, and I said out loud, well, look at you, right? Just like that.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and it wasn't high. And then
Did you
it
hear
went,
anything?
no,
Was there a
it
sound?
went into the clouds, and I couldn't track it after that. There was a perfect line of clouds, and it went right
Could
into
you
the
estimate
clouds.
how high it was?
Yeah. Okay. So
roughly?
as I turned back around, I couldn't follow it anymore. The clouds are really thick. So I turned back around, and I see two planes flying in opposite directions, like one going to San Francisco, one's probably going to LAX. But they were, it was below those planes, which were probably at 10,000 feet or so, not very high.
Not very high, no.
But it was in the middle, deep
And what was
navy
its shape?
blue, just round. So it was deep navy blue, and then a beautiful glowing halo.
Wow.
I told D'Antonio about it, and he went and checked to see if there was any missile launches, and there was nothing on that day. It was a Thursday, 9:15.
Doesn't look like a missile. Didn't seem like it acted like a missile either.
No. It wasn't. I kept telling him. I was like, Mark, no. Well, okay, Mark, look into it. Just look into it. But he wrote. I love Mark. And so the next day he wrote me, he
Yes,
said,
I
dude,
did.
there was
Yeah.
nothing. There was nothing. But yeah, it was crazy. So with all this drama that's going on and everything that's happening out there, and I follow it, okay. But then you have the sighting for yourself. I think that's more important. I mean, to me, at this stage of the game, it keeps my interest right there. There is something going on.
It's true. I mean, for me, I know you're going to take the break. I'll tell you what doesn't keep me going are the he said, she said controversies that seem to rule this community. I'm utterly uninterested in those.
Okay, let's take a break.
Zero interest in those.
Let's take a break, and we'll come back. Richard, stay right there. I'm going to find out why he doesn't have any interest in that. We'll be right back. Richard, stay right there, my friend. Our guest tonight, Richard Dolan. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick, short break.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com.
All right. Welcome back, Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Richard Bleepin' Dolan is with us. Always great when he is on the show. Let's get straight back to it. Richard, you know who I follow today that I can't get enough of?
Who?
Laszlo. I hit the Laszlo? Okay. Laszlo is the man on the street in Washington, D.C., with the microphone interviewing all of these representatives all day long.
Oh,
and he's out.
I should get onto that.
Oh, he's amazing. He's amazing. And some of his stuff, all of it's really good. But his stuff and his conversations with Burchett on the street are incredible, man.
I'll look for it.
Yeah. Laszlo is. I'm going to get him on Fade to Black. He's just amazing. But anyway, so Laszlo last week, he's walking with Burchett, and this made it into the media, where Burchett said, I'm gonna, I can't quote him directly here, but he said, "Man, there's a dark force blocking this stuff that we are up against. You have no idea." And then he got a little colorful with his language. But what I enjoy, not only Laszlo's work with this, and he's very persistent, and I don't know how he pulls it off, but the point is, Burchett is greeted now and understanding the frustration that this community has had going back to the beginning of the cover-up, back into the 40s and the 50s, and the frustration that everybody had with it. What do you make of Burchett's comments about the dark forces that are keeping this clamp down?
He's hinted at this many times, many times. I think he's, it's hard to say this about a member of Congress, but I think he's totally sincere when it comes to the UFO subject. He's been entirely consistent from the get-go. And he's consistently shown that he deeply distrusts all the various branches of the government, the bureaucracies within the government, the national security state. Like, he says all the things that I would want to hear a member of Congress say, and he's never given me reason to think that he doesn't believe any of that stuff. So I think he's aware. But the thing about him is, and I have no doubt that he has been briefed on things that are probably very profound, and that he can't probably, I'm not saying he has an NDA, but for whatever legal reason, he just has to be careful. He has to tread carefully. That's always been my impression of him. And but he's a member of Congress, which means he has to get reelected every 2 years. He has only so much influence and power. Members of Congress, they're just one branch of the government, and they're not the most powerful branch, and they control some bureaucracies, but there's a massive national security bureaucracy that they don't control. And I think he knows all of this. So, what's his strategy moving forward? They tried the UAP Disclosure Act for several years. I don't know that that's happening again this year. I'm not hearing anything about it. I mean, it failed 3 years in a row. So this is a tough uphill battle, and I think he is well aware. And he's not the only member of the government who has made this type of a statement. I mean, there have been former government members who've kind of hinted at this, and I think they're all looking at the same reality. Like, this is big, it's powerful, and there's something, as he says, dark, that's blocking this. I think that's entirely true. The question is, how high up does the darkness go? Does it extend to them, or is it only the human side of it?
Well, you've written about this a lot, in that you have the President of the United States, which at best is in there for 2 terms, 8 years. And then you have a new administration that comes in. The people that are involved with these legacy programs and career military officers, they are in this, they're playing the long game.
That's right.
And that's a huge difference in all of this, where somebody comes in, and Burchett, you can get reelected in Congress, that is for sure, but you're still the administration is the administration, and that will eventually get turned over. And I think that Burchett is finding out that establishment that is, the puppet masters in this case, they've been at this for decades and decades, and they know what they're doing with this. This is not some easy penetration that you're going to go in and suddenly have movement on, when they are well rehearsed in the cover up, aren't they?
Yeah, I think what we all need to understand here is that, all right, so the United States government was designed as 3 branches. We all know this, right? The executive branch, the president, the legislative branch, Congress, and then the judicial branch, the courts. But the government's a lot more than that. And really what ended up happening in the course of the 20th century, and particularly as a result of the Second World War, and probably as a result of the UFO phenomenon, was the growth of what I often call a national security state. And that kind of grew up, like in the original movie Alien, where the alien bursts out of the guy's body. It's a great, horrible scene. That's the national security state. Like, it gestated inside the old republic, but it became a law unto itself. And that's like the unofficial government of the empire. I mean, the United States is a global empire, and it needs to be run as an empire. And that means the old branches of the republic are not suited. This happened to Rome 2,000 years ago. Rome started as a republic. It was run by the Senate, a bunch of rich guys who wanted to keep all the money to themselves. But then they ended up having this empire, and the Senate wasn't able. It really was not capable of running the empire. And we have that with the United States. So we haven't had an official revolution, but we've had an unofficial revolution, a series of them, so that members of Congress like Tim Burchett, who actually seem at times to give a damn about the subject, they find that there's a steering wheel that they've got, but the vehicle doesn't really respond to the controls. There's something else going on here. And trying to understand the actual structure of power in the United States, that is not always easy to do. We're talking, more than $1 trillion a year out of the budget now. So it's an enormous amount of money, with a labyrinth of offices and competing, fiefdoms that go on. And then you've got this other secret, this UFO secret, which is buried in how many special access programs are there that contain this, that are essentially immune from normal congressional oversight, that are totally immune from public oversight. And it's a system that's just gone totally out of control. So, like, getting control over this, you need a genuine legal revolution, I'm sure. for us to be able to get on top of this. We mentioned the Pursue memorandum in the last segment, and it seems pretty weak, and it probably won't amount to anything. That would be my prediction. But even if like the White House, like right now, like we'll play pretend, and let's pretend that the president really wants to do disclosure, which is what I think before we started, I talked about Christopher Sharp, who's a journalist that I really do like. And I don't know if this is a true story, but he put out an article, probably for Liberation Times, that President Trump, according to multiple sources, according to Chris, that a presidential speech has been prepared, supposedly, in which Trump would acknowledge that some UFOs are non-human.
Now, wasn't this supposed to go down on the anniversary of Roswell? Like
I don't know.
July 7th or July 8th?
I've heard about this for some time, like rumors.
Right.
So Christopher, and look, I mean, I have respect for him. Like, I've talked with him, and I've appreciated many of the articles he's put up. Maybe this one's true. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe there isn't. Don't know. But let's just pretend. We're going to play pretend here. So let's say that the President Donald Trump, who's got a lot of other things on his mind these days, but let's say he wants to do disclosure because he wants to cement some kind of legacy because everything else is going to shit. So he wants to do this. Okay. I'm sorry to offend people who think that the Iran war is going well, but it's not. And so let's say he does this. But let's say he wants to get the information on us. Like, how the hell do you do that? It's not just like you issue your executive order. You're dealing with a maze, a very, very complicated maze. So I think like this would require probably a legal revolution. I mean, Bill Clinton couldn't get it. I doubt that Trump's going to be much more successful.
It's a great point that you're bringing up. And I'll say this as a fact, okay? We barely know anything about the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Office.
Right.
It's uber secret. Barely know anything.
That's right.
And it's huge. It's huge.
It has a website, but it's not like you're going to learn a lot out of it.
No. The NSA. We don't know shit about the NSA. But there are intelligence agencies in the United States that nobody has heard of, including the president. I guarantee. It's one
I think
thing.
that's probably true.
Yeah,
I think I agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to go and you want to peel back and penetrate the layers of this subject when the intelligent, the fiefdoms that are in place. I like the way that you put that. It's a huge thing that where there is, in a general sense, no oversight and no budget and no control over these intelligence agencies. The CIA, when it was founded, it was frigging privately funded.
Yeah, that's
privately,
right.
Yeah, privately funded. Why?
A lot of Rockefeller money.
They didn't want anybody to know shit.
Yeah,
and that's a fact.
That's right. And they never stop with the private funding, by the way. I mean,
They don't.
The CIA
They
was
haven't.
very much involved in drug trafficking going back to the 1940s and 50s. Out of, I think originally out of Burma, if I'm not mistaken. I'm trying to remember this. In fact, I remember this. When Eisenhower became president in 1953, or just before that, he was speaking to, I think, some ambassador from Burma who was saying to him, I'm probably getting some details wrong here, but he was saying to Ike, will you please do something about getting the CIA out of here? They're dealing drugs with the major cartels that are here, and it is a real problem. And Eisenhower initially was like, what the hell are you talking about? That's crazy. We don't do that type of a thing. And then he learned that we did when he became president. So that's I don't remember where I learned that, but you can look it up. This is what CIA has done for it, because the best kind of money to get is money that's unvouchered, that you don't have to explain to anyone. It's your own private stash. If you raise private armies and overthrow governments without anyone knowing, It's a lot better to get your own private cartel to fund you than have to beg from Congress. So they've always done that.
It reminds me, we don't have to go off on this tangent, but I will say this. Our good friend, rest in peace, John Lear, all of the UFO stuff and Bigfoot on the moon and soul retrievals with radio antennas, that's one thing. But John Lear was a pilot for intelligence agencies. And his stories with that and what he was doing was absolutely incredible. And now,
I think for some time, for a while, he had like the most ratings that were available for a pilot to have. He was extremely highly rated pilot.
Yep.
And the son of William Lear, who was a major, significant defense contractor.
Lear Aircraft.
Inventor of the Lear jet, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the 8-track tape, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, is that right? No, I didn't.
I think,
now you're making stuff up?
No. I think so.
Really?
I could be wrong.
Okay,
I think it's true.
Coming from John,
he did some things.
Yeah.
And saw a UFO out of an aircraft back in the 50s. William Lear, John Lear's father.
Oh, that really?
Yeah. That's absolutely true. So John Lear grew up with a dad who was not just a defense contractor, but had seen a UFO, talked about it. Yeah, so they were all into it right out of the gate.
The all of those agencies that we know of and the ones that we don't know about are sitting on all kinds of secrets. That's what they do. It's their job. All right, that's fine. Would it surprise you if we did get a video in one of the releases that was a holy shit video where we just back up and go, okay, this isn't a white dot moving in and out of clouds?
Some of them, the problem with all the videos, some of the videos in the 4 tranches are, I thought, really quite good, except for one thing. There's no metadata, there's no information on them, so you can't really do any proper analysis of them. But some of them, I mean, on the face of it, looked very interesting to me. There was one from 2017 in Syria, I believe. I forget which tranche this was from, 2 or 3. And you just watch this thing move across the screen very quickly, and it's incredible. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, the one with the 2 planes, and that object goes in between the 2 planes and past.
Right. That's another. Yeah.
That's a crazy. But I'm talking
there's no
about
data. You can't analyze it.
I'm talking about a Roswell crash retrieval video.
Mm-hmm.
You know, something like that. Would, in the world of AI that we are in today, it's hard to trust anything that you see anymore. But what if the government did something like that? And they're sitting on stuff like that.
So 2 things. A, they were not going to do it because they haven't done it yet, and nothing they have released is anything remotely like what you're describing. Right. But, okay, this is a really good question that everyone listening really should hear this carefully. What actually would constitute proof to you listening right now if the United States government were to release some kind of amazing thing? Would people even believe it? I'd be willing to bet, like, if President Trump came out tomorrow with the body of an alien or a live alien, I think a lot of people would say that's a psyop. Because a lot of people absolutely will never believe in this subject, but they believe in psyops. So that's a whole community right there. And they will say, that's BS, that's like another version of kind of a blue beam or whatever. They'll say something like that. There is absolutely a large number of people, I don't know how large, that like the U.S. government at this point, there's literally nothing that it could probably do for a genuine disclosure, because I think enough people are at the point where they just will not believe a single thing. which is a bit of a problem too. I mean, I don't really know where. So then the question becomes, what would ever constitute it? And I think I watched the comments, and there are people like, I only believe in catastrophic disclosure. But even if that were to happen, I'll bet you there'd be people who say they only make it look like it's catastrophic disclosure. Like that would happen.
Well, conspiracy is the new normal. You know, it's
So
like
what would constitute constitute genuine proof to someone?
it's too easy to. I know.
We've come a long way. You know, Bryce Abel and I wrote After Disclosure 16 years ago.
That's crazy.
And you know, back then I thought I was pretty seasoned and cynical, which for 2010 I was probably. But back then we went on the assumption, this is back Obama was president back in those days. We're thinking, well, if Obama went up and gave a speech in 2010, people would believe it. And they might have in 2010. It's possible that a larger number of people would have believed it. But now, I don't think so.
It's weird.
No one would
it's so
believe it.
weird. I remember this is how much times have changed. I remember you and I a long time ago. Let's go 14 years ago. We were talking about AD After Disclosure. We were talking about the book, and I had asked you a realistic version of how it could happen. And I asked you, do you think it's possible to have a thumb drive with all the shit on it to get out, and that it would be a disclosure of files that was out of the government's control, and they would have to turn around and respond to it? And you had written a little bit about that idea in AD After Disclosure. And here we are in 2026. If that happened today, because back then it seemed like that would be the way to go.
Yes.
When Julian Assange was doing his thing and all that other stuff back then, it seemed like a natural way to have this go down. If it went down like that today, I'm not so sure if that would be good enough. Yeah.
Totally different. We're in an era now where like AI can manufacture anything, and convincingly. So whether that's a video, a photograph, document, and if it can't do it perfectly now, give it a year or two. It can probably do it now. So provenance, standards of proof and evidence, these are extremely important issues, and I don't think we have a proper resolution of them in our culture. Like I don't really know that we know how to deal with this yet.
What if we go with something more historical, like say the Skinny Bob video, right?
I saw a thumbnail on that and I just didn't click it. Someone's like, I figured out the Skinny Bob. Did you look at that?
I've watched Skinny Bob since it came out. So I don't even know. It's 20 years or when did it come out? Yeah, probably 2007, 2008. If I could be off by a few years. I think so. But I've always enjoyed the Skinny Bob video where it just feels right.
I love some of those. And that one, yes. I don't really know what to say about it, but it's kind of cool to look at.
It's pretty cool.
It's cool to look at.
That's before AI.
Yes. But not before there were, some decent video effects. But
not that
I don't
good,
really
though.
know how effective the I have to revisit that and go back over the analysis, the pro and cons. I don't really have an opinion on it. Do you?
The provenance, the alleged provenance, it's Soviet, right? This was a Soviet piece of film, and it was Skinny Bob is our name for the alien that's in the video, but this was a leaked Soviet piece of film, and it's film and not video, and it's black and white. What I don't see in it. I don't feel. It's definitely not somebody in a mask or makeup, neck's too skinny, and that. So, my eyes, Richard. Damn it! I think it's an authentic video.
Okay.
I want my eyes to tell me the truth. And if I'm looking at something and I don't call bullshit out of the gate, which I do 99.9% of the time, like we all do,
Yeah.
If I don't go there out of the gate, then what am I left with? And the Skinny Bob video.
I'd be willing to bet. I'm sorry to overtalk you. I would be willing to bet, though, that at least some of these various controversial videos that have come out over the last 20 plus years, I'll bet some of them are probably real.
Do you remember the J-Rod interview video when J-Rod starts coughing and the technician comes in and wipes his mouth, right? Bullshit, right? I'm calling bullshit on that video.
Well, you're probably right, but I looked at that.
Felt like a puppet. Wow. Yeah, he's doing this, and
yeah, probably. You're probably right.
But the Skinny Bob didn't do that for me.
Yeah, that one does look. That's a pretty interesting one. I'm happy not to have an opinion on most of these. There's certain things like I feel pretty confident that I can comment on, and others I'm going to let people who really know better chime in. I don't have a definitive. I'm not an authority on video analysis of these things.
I've never asked you this. I'm going to ask you this now.
Oh no!
And I'm going to tell. Richard and I have had hundreds of hours of one-on-one conversation, but I've never asked him what I'm about to ask him. Did you ever watch the UFO specials live from Area 51? Did you watch any of those?
Like back in the cable TV days of the 90s?
Yeah. Did you watch any of that stuff?
Very seldom.
The interview with Victor or Alkin,
no, not too much.
Somebody blacked out. Did you watch any of those?
Here's why. I mean, I did probably watch some of them on TV, yes. Hey, back in the 90s, I was a big fan of the X-Files, for what it's worth. But back in the 90s, when I started researching this, I was all about old books and old FOIA documents and all of that. From like 93, 94, when I first started, like really became obsessed. Pardon me. It was all the early Usenet internet groups, Alt Alien UFO, and was it Alt Paranet UFO, something like that. I was onto those, and I made it a mission to go to used bookstores and libraries to find all of the books from the 1950s and 60s and 70s, because I was researching the earlier history. So I wasn't really, when the 90s happened, I was only truly vaguely aware of what was going on in ufology in the 90s. I was somewhat aware. But I was my head was in the 1940s and 50s, and I was all about Donald Keough and Edward Ruppelt and Coral Lorenzen and those people. So the crazy thing was, when my first book was published, I self-published it initially in 2000, which was an interesting story of itself, because I had to figure out a way to sell it before there was Amazon. But I hit the scene in 2000, and people started learning about me. And then I discovered, they want to interview me. They want to invite me to speak at this place or that place. And I was asked about all the more contemporary UFO issues, and I knew nothing about them. So I came on and I did my first public appearance in this field in 2001, and I didn't know anything intelligent to say about someone like Bob Lazar. That was like, I hadn't gotten to that point. It took me everything that I could do to study from the 1940s up to the early 1970s. 5 years of just focused only on that. And I had to really, I had to up my game and study hard in those early years. And I got up to speed fast, but it was a lot of effort. So my head in the 1990s was many decades earlier.
Yeah,
it's just how it had to be.
I read all the new stuff, as much of it as I can, but I'm with you on this. The old stuff, is wonderful. You know what I read? You know what I read last month? I'm going through it a second time right now. I think it was Leonard Stringfield's last book on crash retrievals.
He had 7 status reports,
Yes,
he called them. Yeah, and his last one he published not long before he died.
Yeah, not long before he died, and it's
in the early 90s.
It's pretty current. It's pretty current.
I'm glad you mentioned this. Not everyone, even now, it really understands just how great this man was as a researcher. Mm-hmm. My opinion, he's like probably top 5 of all time. I think Stringfield is the guy who really opened up crash retrievals for the rest of us. And as much as like Stanton Friedman deserves props, Kevin Randall, none are higher than Stringfield. Leonard Stringfield, I still want to encourage people to do this. You can buy this on Amazon. I don't know if it's available as an ebook now, but you'd spend a lot of money and buy the full 7 status reports, and it's all 8.5 by 11, and it's like $80. It's expensive, but oh my Lord.
Yep.
Incredibly valuable. Because what he did is he became like a conduit for, because he lived near Dayton, Ohio. He lived near near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And he was a World War II vet, so like a lot of people in the military trusted him. And they just came to him with unbelievable stories. And he wrote them down very meticulously. The problem with the collected status reports is that he never really properly organized them. So they go all over the place. But they're incredible reading.
Yeah, he's in the first chapter of your book, Security State Volume 1, and that is one of the
I have a lot to say about him in Volume 2.
Yes, for sure. But that flight, which was during World War II in the Pacific, so he's flying to Japan or the Philippines. He's flying over there with a group of guys. They a transport plane. There's like 20 people on the plane, and you write about this. The point is Stringfield.
They had a Foo Fighter encounter, and
we're tracking it on radar. Yeah, the engines give out, right? Tracking from the ground, tracking from the plane, and they're all looking out the windows. And Stringfield was one of the troops.
He was a
on
witness.
That flight. Yeah,
it was a burning. He described it as like burning magnesium, super bright, teardrop shaped. I don't know if they did the radar tracking on this. I actually don't think they did, but I don't have the book in front of me. And it was right after the war officially ended, but they were still active duty, and they were flying, I think, to Okinawa. From maybe from the Philippines. So they're over the water, and Stringfield described this. He said we're on this aircraft, and this teardrop shaped, incredibly bright thing comes up to our aircraft, and it started to interfere. Like at the same time, the engine started to sputter, and they were prepared to ditch to get out of the craft over the water, and then the object moved away, and the engine recovered.
Back. Yeah, and their instruments had failed. And the instruments came back.
Yeah, that's possibly right. You might remember this better than I do. But I don't think it was a radar tracking, but it was close enough. Like they saw this, it came up to them, caused the engine to sputter, and obviously made a big impact on Stringfield, and that led directly to his interest. He started doing a lot of UFO work in the 1950s, and then stepped back for like a little bit of time in the 60s, and then just got back into it, and with a vengeance.
Do you have a favorite case? Do you have a case that maybe you don't talk about as much, but for you, you find it compelling?
Oh, well,
do you have one case?
I don't know if I have one. I used to back in. I think I may have told you this. George Norrie said to me one time on Coast, Richard, what's the greatest UFO case in your opinion?
That was damn good. That was damn good.
Thank you.
I thought I did a good Nori. That was
Well,
pretty good.
I'm sure you do. And at the time, I gave him the Jafardi 1976 Iran case in September over Tehran. That is a great case.
Yes, it is.
If people listening, a lot of people know that one. It's great because intrinsically it was an incredible encounter. Two F-4 jets successively tried to approach this thing. Both of them had their key navigational equipment and weapon systems go offline when they got to within a certain distance. And the documentation on it is spectacular. We have a declassified Defense Intelligence Agency document that describes it in detail. And now, like, Jafardi himself was interviewed, and like this is a very well-established case. But I don't know if that's my favorite case.
Well,
I don't know.
you know what's crazy about that case? That was the Iranian Air Force. He lands. The United States Air Force is waiting for him.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I think I read this in Clear Intent by Barry Greenwood and Lawrence Fawcett, a really good book from years ago. And I believe they said that the U.S. that they had learned, no one has seen this, that the United States had a exceptionally detailed analysis and of that whole event that was like super thick. And that also, I think I remember the name of General Richard Secord, who was famous during the Iran-Contra thing. He was involved. He was there. There were some high-level people very intrigued and interested in that case. So we got lucky that we learned about that one within a year of its happening. There was I think this was Charles Huffer. He was an American. I think he was the one who was abroad in Germany. If not him, someone else read about this in a newspaper. Somehow it got out one time. And in 1977, a year later, he made a request to the Defense Intelligence Agency for information on this. And miraculously, he got this 3-page memo plus an additional page that had some handwritten notes, calling it a great report. Like, that was incredible. That's a score. But I don't know if that's my favorite case. I don't know if I have a favorite case. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah.
I don't get emotional over these cases. I'm in the middle of a USO trilogy, and some of those water-based cases are absolutely fascinating, and some I love because they're like great, they're military, they're well documented, and some others I love because it's just like a guy or a married couple out on their boat at midnight on a lake, and some crazy thing happens to them, and it scares the living hell out of them. Here's one. I'll leave you with this. One of the Aleutian Islands. Where the hell was this? Not Adak Island. Somewhere. 1952. I can't remember the stuff. I put it in my own book even. 1952 or 53, around there. So this man in the mid-60s wrote his story out to NICAP, which was big at the time.
Aleutian Islands, Alaska.
Yeah, it was one of the Aleutian Islands.
Right. Okay.
So it's out in the middle of nowhere. In 1966, he writes to NICAP, and then that letter gets transferred to the CUFOS, the Center for UFO Studies Archive. And that's how we know about it. No one ever read this thing. He just writes this letter. He said, 14 years ago, I had this crazy thing happen. And what was it that happened? He's working, and he has the day off. He's working like in oil, or some kind of rig. And he's got nothing to do on his day off. And on this island, like Shemyat Island, was that the hell it was? He's like, it's this tiny little rock out in like the northern Pacific Ocean. And he's just standing there looking out at the water. And he says, I'm looking up and I see this craft come over me. And it's got a kind of almost like a bat-shaped wing design to it. And he had certain lights on it. And he said, I was so blown away by this. And I just watched it hover for a minute, and it tilted down, and it just dove right into the water. And I stood there for like the next long period of time, waiting for this damn thing to come out of the water, but it just went into the water. And it's like,
what do you
this
do with
this
that?
guy? Like, this had to be the most incredible moment of this man's life. I gotta think, what beats that? Nothing beats that.
Nothing does.
Nothing beats that. He writes about it 14 years later in probably what was a handwritten letter. And no one in the world, maybe he told his wife, maybe not. I have no idea. But like, it was just a totally forgotten event in the history of Earth. Seriously. In the history of humanity, in the history of Earth, that thing that this man saw, Elmer, his name was Elmer something. It's just like, and we just forget about these things. They just like drop in the bucket, a drop in the ocean. And that kind of a story, like that affects me. Because I know, and you know, and probably everyone listening to this knows that stories like that are everywhere. And regular people experience them, and we're amazed by them. And like, you never get closure from them. Like, you're left wondering, what the hell was that? Who are these people? Where is this ship going? A base? Is there a base down there? I think probably yes. But we don't get closure.
I saw a video, briefly, parts of it, of yours. I think you published it yesterday or the day before, where you talk about the possibility of a base in New Mexico or Arizona.
Yeah, I did a video on that some time ago.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember.
It popped up in my feed yesterday. And
my thought is that there could be a base anywhere. Oh, yeah, go on. I'm sorry. Please.
But it was your comments that caught my attention, which you said that it wasn't a U.S. military base. This is an ET base. We just know where it is.
I can't remember half the things I do these days. Well, I did a thought piece, and it was for YouTube, on the likelihood of an alien, like the reality of alien bases, and they could very well be near wherever you live. This is what I think. Like, the problem that we have with this subject, I know we're just about out of time. Everyone likes to keep it safe. And that includes most of us. And I think that includes most people who follow this. It's like, we recognize that there's a cover-up, so that pisses us off. We recognize that, like when we hear people like Tim Burchett say there's a dark force covering this. But what we don't usually like to think about is the reality that there's an intelligence that is not us, that is very advanced, I think very sophisticated, probably more sophisticated than us, and that is operating here, like permanently. And they clearly have bases, like areas where they congregate and do the things that they do for their civilization. And in all likelihood, there might be one that's 50 miles away from your house or less. And that's an interesting thing to think about.
I've invited you out here, Richard. I'll take you right there. I've invited you out.
Okay.
So what's next up for you right now? What are you working on?
Well, a couple of things. I am working on my third volume of USO history, but I've done a bunch of side projects in the midst of this. On my website, I did a study of the history of Soviet ufology, like the history of Russian and Soviet, not just Soviet and Russian, so right up to today. A year ago, I did one on Chinese ufology, and I wanted to do one on the Russians. And I did a video of it, but I've got to finish up a formal paper. I'm doing a paper that I'm publishing on my website tomorrow, which is a behavioral analysis of aerial UFOs. So I did a behavioral analysis of USOs, which I was really happy about. I did a lot of data that I took down of my USO cases, and I did a statistical breakdown. So I did something like that, a smaller version of it. And I broke it down by 2 years. I did 2004 and 1952. the thing is, I've collected a very huge database of an enormous chronology of UFO sightings and data and information. And so for 2004, we all know about the Nimitz encounter, the Tic Tac, but I've got about 150 cases from that year in my own personal collection. And I've got about 120 or so cases from 1952 that I put into my collection. And so what I decided to do is a kind of comparative behavioral analysis of the craft. And I probably will finish it tomorrow morning. It's pretty long. It's about 5,000 words. And I guess what I'll say is that there are definite patterns that are consistent, 52 years apart. And this is not a comprehensive, because I mean, to do a comprehensive study was very daunting. It's like there's so many cases. But I thought I'll just do these 2 years for now and see what I come up with. And I guess all I'll just say is there is a definite, absolutely consistent behavioral commonality. Like we get hung up on shape of the craft and these things, but really what I'm more and more interested in is their behavior, because I think you can learn things from their behavior and their relationship to the human observers who are trying to deal with them, whether military or not. So I'm doing that right now, and I'm quite fascinated.
Fascinating. That's fascinating. Let me know when it comes out. And not only would I like to read it,
yeah, I'll make that's on my website, but I'm making that just probably free to the public.
Okay, yeah, do that, and I'll let everybody know.
Yeah,
Richard,
cool.
Thank you so much. Give my best to Tracy. I hope all is well in your world, my friend.
Thank you.
Another great conversation. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Always enjoy it. Thank you, Jimmy. And my best to all the Fader-Knots who are watching.
You're the best. Thank you, Richard. Have a great
Bye.
night. Richard Bleepin' Dolan. Links are below. Richard Dolan members over on our website and throughout social media. Thank you so much, Richard. I am your host, Jimmy Church. So this is my Friday, everybody. It's your Thursday. It's my Friday. Had a great week here hanging out with all of you. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my evening and get my weekend started. We've got a great week lined up next week on Fade to Black. Also, I'm going to be doing some traveling. I've got to go film Beyond Belief next week as well. Okay, so I'll let everybody know. Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you right back here on Monday. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go back, Lee Tappy.